We have one apology from Mark Brown. Somebody move that we accept that apology, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nikki moved.
Well, I'll move that we accept the apology from Mark Brown. Can we have a seconder?
I will. Doug, would you like us to speak, to unmute, or shall we just raise our hands? Can you see us okay well enough to do that?
Sorry, what was that?
We usually would just raise hands in a Zoom meeting. Would you like us to just raise our hands, or would you like us to unmute?
You can raise your hand to who's going to be the seconder?
That's me.
That's
Nikki.
you, right? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. No public forum. Conflicts of interest. No conflicts of interest. Confirmation of minutes from the minutes of the Oxford Ōhākī Community Board on the 2nd of March 2020. One thing I'd like to say before we confirm that was that Sarah Barker was present, although she's not in the list. With that added in, somebody move that those minutes be assigned as a true record, please. Thank you, Shirley. Seconder. Wendy, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Matters arising. Shirley. Unmute, Shirley.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I just want to ask if there's been any more information regarding the EV stations in Oxford. Remember, the council staff were going to go back to the farmers market about the 24/7 time for it to be open. So just wondering if anybody has heard anything.
Yep. Forgotten your name, sorry.
Yeah, you're all good. I answered to most things, Doug. It's not a problem. Thanks, Shirley. Yes, I went back to Vanessa. I know she has been in touch, and it was from her perspective like totally fine, but I haven't just heard back exactly formally what's been agreed. But I understand that she's been in contact. There were no issues, but I will just follow up and get her to perhaps flip us a wee email. Is that all right?
Yep. Thank you. Any other matters? Shirley? You're muted again, Shirley.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'd just like to bring you up to speed with regarding the speed limits in the letter from that Ted Dring actually got. I met with Councillor Gordon and we zoomed into Joanne. What did concern me that a report was going to go out to the board and that the staff hadn't even talked to Wakatahi about Ted's letter. So I actually contacted the man who wrote the letter and he said everything there was correct. And he was going to contact the guy who the roading engineers had contacted regarding the speed limit review. And Chris Rodley came back to me and said that was correct, what was in the letter. So to cut a long story short, Councillor Gordon actually was going to organise a Zoom meeting with the two people from the Wakatahi and Joanne himself and some other people to find out what the difference is. He was going to try and do that within 2 weeks. It's been over 2 weeks, I haven't heard, but no doubt we'll hear in due course. But attached to the report that was going to go to the board, I suggested that it didn't go until they actually talked to LTNZ, was it was going to cost $469,000. They'd done a spreadsheet on it, so that really concerned me. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Tracy, you got anything to comment there? No? Okay, thank you. Any further matters arising?
Yeah, I've got something, Doug.
Yeah, go Thomas.
Thank you. Just wondering if we had an update on the situation in Mandeville with the asbestos outside the Mandeville Sports Club.
You have to ask the Green Space team. There's one of them here.
I don't have the information to be able to give you an update myself, but I can certainly put that request to Grant McLeod when I get into the office tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Grant.
Can I just add, at the moment that basically that sits with the Mandeville Sports Club, and they are looking into legal issues, etc. So basically that's sitting with them at the moment, and I guess we'll hear in due course, but the council has done everything that they can to make it safe, and from there it's more process. So I don't know if that helps, but everything is fairly public excluded. So, yeah.
Right. Thank you, Nikki. Anything else? No, right. So can somebody move that those minutes be signed as a true record, please? Ray, thank you. Wendy, second, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. No deputations and presentations. No adjourned business. Report on general landscaping budget. Grant Stevens, thank you, Grant.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here today with you. Yeah, so it's that time of the year again where I've got the report up for you for the general landscaping budget. So you might remember, I think it was November last year, I came and did a workshop with the board, and I do apologise for not getting this report back to you earlier. It has been one of those things which has been a bit of work, but has also been at the mercy of, we've had a few staff changes in our green space team, and our capacity is significantly lowered at the moment while we look for another landscape architect to fill Kevin Dwyer's role since he left. So that being said, the report is here, and hopefully tonight you might be able to allocate some budget towards the projects that you were looking at. So I'll take it that you've read the report, so I won't, it's quite a long report, so I won't read through it all. I'll just, I guess, skip over pretty much from that report. As staff, we've recommended the allocation of budget to, I guess, a range of projects across the district. So across your ward, I guess, in that area. So we have recommending $3,000 to the Ohoka Domain Flying Fox. That is nearly, it's kind of on the cusp of completion, and they just need a bit more to get across the line. The Residents Association have done an amazing job in pushing that and driving it and getting there. So it would be great to see that finished and kids being able to enjoy that. We have $3,500 to purchasing and installing a picnic table within Swannanoa Domain. So that came out of a suggestion of, there was a landscape plan done a number of years back for Swannanoa Domain, and a few different landscape features identified on that. Two of them that highlighted in the report, the picnic table or the tree planting, are there. We've suggested based, I guess, on just what's in your budget and what you can kind of tick off well and truly within this financial year, the option one, the picnic table, and that will also get great bang for its buck of people being able to sit and enjoy that domain. We also have $1,500 towards landscaping around the rodeo shed at Mandeville Domain. So they're still progressing. The erection of that shed on site, but they would like a bit of help or support to do some planting around it, much like what the board has previously done for projects such as like the Ohoka Gatekeepers Lodge. We have the Oxford Cemetery wildflowers, $1,500 towards getting some wildflower seeds and sprinkling them over what we've identified as potential or likely unmarked graves in the area to the south of the, I guess, what's currently understood as full cemetery. That whole space is cemetery allocated land, but the area between what's, I guess, the fenced off cemetery and the reserve, planting some wildflower seeds in there. Then a small allocation of $350 towards the Oxford Community Gardens. They're just wanting some support to help plant and grow some bee-friendly plants. They've, I think, in the words of their coordinator, they're sick of trying to pull vegetables out of public toilets, and instead would like to have the people who are stealing the vegetables get stung by bees. So not quite like that, but they are keen to do some bee-friendly plants. We see bee-friendly plants as great for our biodiversity and our environment, and people being able to, it still has that learning function where people can learn about plants you can put in a vegetable garden to encourage pollination and things like that. So it still fits in with their, I guess, that community garden theme. And finally, $3,000 towards the Mandeville Village Reserve picnic tables. So you might remember 2 years ago, I think it was, the board allocated $500 towards the allocation of those picnic tables, on the understanding the Residents Association were going to we were pretty much putting the cost of the concrete or materials to do so, and they were going to undertake the work. We've been in discussion with James Ensor, who was kind of leading that project at the time, and that's, I guess, that has stalled, and we don't see it progressing anytime soon. So felt that if the board do want to see them brought out into the reserve as per their plan, the best way forward probably would be to get a contractor to do so, in which case obviously we have to pay what current market rate is for concrete and installation. So that's for both picnic tables. Where that leaves two projects, I guess, that were previously discussed on the table for future consideration. So one of them is the pump track down at Mandeville Domain. So that just needs a bit more work between those who are keen and interested for that project and the Mandeville Domain, Mandeville Sports Club, who look after that domain, and I guess building that concept and idea, and then that could either come back to the board if it's, I guess, within your budget ability for allocation, or it may form part of a future annual plan or long-term plan bid, depending on how that, I guess, builds or transpires. And the final one being West Eaton train platform heritage. So the board had a deputation by Tim Fulton regarding the protection of the previous West Eaton train station opposite West Eaton Hall. I've been down on site. I've been had quite a few talks with Tim, and he's a raft of information. And we've also dragged Bernard Kingsbury from the Cuss Museum into the fray as well, and he's been helping us provide us with some sketches of how that whole thing was laid out. It's quite a complex one because obviously there's not a lot of room between these structures and the actual Northfair Road, so we need to make sure that whatever we're proposing is safe. We're not introducing a risk. We also need to make sure that what we're doing is, for example, the mound, one of the early suggestions was, could we put a sort of post and rail fence around, much like what is around the Oak Domain, I should say, opposite West Eaton Hall. But that poses health and safety in terms of the road corridor, but also would mean that you kind of wouldn't see the mound at all anyway. So part of, I guess, protecting a heritage feature is also enabling people to be able to see it and appreciate it for what it is. So we're recommending that gets left on the table. Tim and Bernard are keen to continue working with us with a green space to try and come up with an appropriate way, and we'll tie in with the roading team as well on that, and hopefully be able to present something back to the board once that's I guess a bit more clear on what we can and can't do and what those costs might be associated with that. That's pretty much what's in the report. So happy to take any questions you might have. Yeah, thank you.
Doug, you're on mute.
Oh, yes, Grant. Just a quick question about the underground radar that was performed in Oxford at the cemetery there. The unmarked graves that have been found, are they going to be designated in any way, or is the intention just to oversow the whole area with the wildflowers?
Yeah, so the intention was to, I guess, oversow that whole area. So kind of create, I guess, garden beds of wildflowers that go over the particular areas. So and I think hopefully I included a bit of a plan in that report for you. So the sort of the purple on page 21 of your agenda, the purple kidneys is probably the best way to describe them. Yeah, so at this point, we didn't want to, I guess, put a stake in the ground on each site and put kind of a marker, someone is buried here. We don't know who is there. We also, whilst the ground penetration radar has suggested this looks very much like what a grave like this would look like. So they look at depth, they look at size, they look at whether the ground has been disturbed between whatever's under there and the top. We can't hand on heart say that's most certainly a coffin without, or a grave without actually digging it up, and that's certainly not something that we're recommending we go down that track on. So it was more a case of, I guess, providing something which brings a bit of beauty to that space for whoever is interred under there. It's a bit of a reminder, but it also, I guess, brings a bit of colour and an opportunity for people in the wider reserve, but also in the cemetery to go and potentially pick some flowers and put them on their loved one's grave, so it sort of ties the two together. But so we weren't at this point looking at marking each one.
And the future of any dog park in Oxford, that's not mentioned anywhere, but is that still on the cards?
Yes. So the board were successful in your submission to the long-term plan for a dog park, or I think it ended up being called a rural town dog exercise area or something like that. So budget was allocated for that. I believe it was in year 3 of the long-term plan. So planning for that will start with our team probably next in sort of 20. I think the budget comes available in 2024. So we'll be looking 2023 to start design on that. Don't quote me on those dates, but it is. It wasn't in those first couple of years of the long-term plan. That is for the area, I guess, so south of here you've got the Oaks Reserve with a big stand of oak trees, and then south of that you then have the field which goes between those oaks and the Sycon yard. So the dog park is planned for in that space. So this space, we wouldn't intend there would be people utilizing it as a dog park area. This, I guess, also this whole area is allocated as future cemetery. So in time, the fence between it and the cemetery will no longer, I guess, be required. And there will be, I guess that will be moved back. We have a bylaw that prevents dogs from going into cemeteries. So that area, as that cemetery grows, that area will become part of that. As part of that, also, I should mention on our green space work plan is to do a bit of a design for that space, so that when we go up, because each year we have budget goes towards putting in new berms, so that when they're required, they're ready in there. So we're creating a bit of a plan for that, which we will bring to the board, that shows where those berms would be and any implication of those unmarked graves on those berms. So obviously we want to be careful that if we're allocating a plot to someone, that plot isn't already in use, I guess. So that's something that we're intending on designing in the next financial year. So we'll hopefully be coming to the board sometime late in this calendar year or early next.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Grant. Any further questions for Grant?
I think Shirley does. You're on mute, Shirley.
Sorry. Just a couple of things to let the board know. One, that Keep Oxford Beautiful actually have planned a bulb planting thing on this weekend. It's actually advertised in the bulletin, so I could actually send that to you if anyone's interested. And also, if we do agree to these things today, I'm just a little bit concerned about the word rodeo, because we normally put it out into the community on the Facebook page what our things are. A lot of people don't like that. Could that be changed?
That's a good question, Shirley. I mean, I guess it would be given as a grant to the rodeo club. I guess the club who do it are proud of their sport and what they're doing. So I'm not sure. I couldn't say if you would get any flack for putting money towards rodeo as a particular thing. I guess I'll leave that to the board.
Sarah, you had a question? Sarah? No? Any further questions?
Yeah, just had to unmute. Just had a question. The Swananoa Domain has got that concept plan since, was it 2014? So I'm just wondering why since then there's been no progress on it.
Yeah, so that was before my time at council. So I'm not entirely familiar, but what I'm guessing has happened is it used to be council policy to go and make a concept plan for every single one of our domains, and we treated that as our management technique for that domain or reserve. And so the master plan kind of it not only had a design of what it might look like, but it also had rules of what you could do within that space and what might happen in the future and what sort of sports might go on there and all of those kind of rules and stuff around them. Shortly after that plan would have been made, we shifted to what's referred to as an omnibus system, where we actually say all neighbourhood reserves will fit under a neighbourhood reserves management plan. And so rather than spending a time designing each reserve, we say this is a neighbourhood reserve, this is the function it fits, and here are the rules and things that will fit into it. We then often, if we've got, say, Ōhauka Domain is a good example, if we've got a playground renewal or some sort of renewal project in there, we'll often look at the wider domain at that stage and go, okay, is there opportunities for a bit of development here at that stage? But that shifting across to that different management technique, I guess, meant that I guess a lot of those previous plans and management plans became obsolete. That's not to say that they are irrelevant in terms of driving what might happen if there's, like in this situation where the board says, well, can we do something at Swannanoa Domain? But I don't believe there was necessarily intention for each one of those plans that was made for it to be built then and there. That it was more a case of let's make a plan. As we progress through time, we'll do annual plan submissions and long-term plan submissions for funding and things. So I'm guessing that's where that has, I guess, the transition across is why that hasn't progressed down there. As far as I understand, there's no budget allocated to the in the long-term plan to the development or implementation of that plan as we speak. But it does, in the likes of this case, does provide some level of guidance for the board in what you might be able to do for the likes of general landscaping projects.
Okay, and the other question I had was probably more directly for Tia, but can we add the pump track into our annual plans? You know, it's sort of a not going to be picked up in the landscaping budget.
Through you, Mr. Chairperson, are you talking about your annual plan submission? Well, it's already been submitted, but I'm sure that you can raise it at the meeting when you address it, the council.
Okay, thanks. That was all I had. Thanks for your work on it, Grant. It's great.
Thank you, Sarah. Anything else? Anybody?
Just a quick question by me, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Grant, just further to
Sorry, Nikki, I think you've cut out there. I'm not sure if anyone else can hear her.
No, nobody else. You froze, Nikki. You're still frozen.
down. Do they? Oh no! Can you not hear me?
We can hear you now, Nikki.
We can hear you now.
But everything you've said before now, unfortunately, we did miss.
Sorry, and my connection's unstable. Sorry. So, is this still fit for purpose if we want to pick bits out of it? Because they've taken down some big trees that used to go around the perimeter of the Swannanoa Domain, and I'm not really sure what the reason was for that, if they were just seen as a fall hazard or something. But with all those trees in that plan, would that actually still even allow cricket to be played there and whatnot?
My understanding is that there is still intention for cricket to be played there. Even if there wasn't, I guess it is a as a reserve within Swannanoa, I think the likes of a picnic table would certainly be utilised by people visiting the domain. I guess that was one of the reasons why we've put the picnic table ahead in terms of priority of the ring of trees, because that before we did that, we'd want to have a bit more consultation and discussion between the users of that space and what impact that might have and what they've found in the past around trees and things in the domain. So I don't think that would impact the picnic table, but yeah, that sort of thinking would certainly in terms of the trees.
I was probably just getting a little bit ahead of myself, because certainly a picnic table would go down a treat and wouldn't make too many waves, I'm sure, because that's all we're talking about at this point. But I just meant for in the future. But thank you.
Okay, anything further?
Doug.
Yep.
Just to sort of bring you up on that, was the tennis, I mean the cricket club that have done a lot of work there, and they have put a lot of small trees and shrubs in along that area, and so probably it would be, probably if you need to ask questions, probably would be the cricket club you need to
Certainly
consult with. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Right. Moving on. At this point, I would like to just, this is a little bit irrelevant, but acknowledge Grant Reburn, who is resigning, or has resigned and will be leaving shortly. I didn't realise he was commuting from Nelson for 10 years. That's pretty tremendous, really. And he's done a great job in those 10 years. Thank you, Grant Reburn.
I'll be happy to pass it on to him tomorrow, Doug, for you.
Thank you. Right, somebody would like to move a report, receive Grant's report, and I guess we've got to agree to each of those proposals for allocation.
I'll move.
Thank you, Wendy. Seconder? Shirley, thank you. Any discussion?
No, just a big thank you very much, Grant, for all the work you've done. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Grant. All in favour? Sorry, Nikki.
No, I was just saying in favor, but if you're going to give me a second to speak, I would just, again, like to acknowledge all the work that's gone into this. There's some great ideas here. It goes right across our entire ward. Looks like everybody gets something, and they're all very worthy projects. So well done with divvying up our pot of gold for very worthy community projects. So look forward to getting it all done. And just in my own little corner of the world, my children have been waiting for this flying fox that they've been planning for about the last 10 years, and they'll look a little bit out of place on it once they finally get it done. But I think all of these things look amazing, and I can't wait for our community to get to use them. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thomas, you had something? No? Anybody else? All right, all in favour of that motion? Against? Carried, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Grant. Right, application of the Oxford Ahoki Community Board's discretionary grant. The Clarkville Play Centre.
Through you, Mr. Chairperson. We all know the Clarkville Play Centre, that ward has given them funding before. They are requesting funding to buy some new bikes and scooters for their 3 to 5 year olds. They've got a new painted track, and they would love the 3 to 5 year olds to be able to use the track. I will take the report as read and take any questions if there might be.
I have one question.
Yes.
The money that they're requesting must be real cheap bikes and scooters. Doesn't seem to me to be enough.
Well, Mr. Chair, as the board, you can decide actually to give them more if you do believe that that's not enough, but they do actually have a quote attached of which bikes they would like on page 33. So.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you said that.
Right, I'd like to move that we
Doug.
approve. Sorry.
Doug, sorry. Question.
Yep.
Question. Tia, are they applying to any of the other community boards or not? I was just looking at what they've mentioned, that with the various children that are different age groups from different areas. Are they applying for any other funds anywhere else?
They did. They applied to the Kaiapoi board for funding for a mud kitchen,
Right.
but the Kaiapoi board actually declined the funding.
Right, yeah. And just looking at the percentage of people in their area, where Oxford Ahoka was 9, Rangiora Ashley 25, Woody End 7, and Kaiapoi Tuhiwi was 6. So that's why I just asked, have they gone to any other board?
Those percentages don't even really add up, do they?
No, they don't.
There might be a bit of an error. I know my children in the past, when they were younger, went there, and most of the people that went there were from our sort of area. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be. Maybe they'd made an error there.
Yeah,
I would think that too, because I know lots of kids from around the Ahoka, Mandeville, Swannanoa area that go to Clarkville Play Centre.
Well, I'm happy for them to receive that money, because by looking at the little bikes, that's about what it's going to cost. So I don't know what anyone else feels.
Okay. Well, I'll move that we approve the grant of however much is they're asking for. I can't remember.
376.
Yeah. That we approve that grant to the Clarkville Play Centre towards the cost of purchasing bikes and scooters. May I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Nikki's done it. Thank you. All in favour? Sorry. Yes. Wendy, you had a comment?
No.
You're right. That's all right. Sorry. This Zoom thing is not easy to get used to. And against? Right, carried, thank you. Ratification of the Oxford Ahoka Community Board submission to the Waimakere District Council and Environment Canterbury's draft annual plans.
Through you, Mr. Chairperson, this is just the ratification of the submissions that we made last week. I did actually email everybody the final submissions just to read, and I will take the report as read.
Yep.
I'll move that we accept that then.
I can second that, and thank you very much for composing that, Tia.
Yep. Okay. Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank Tia as well. She's done a really good job. It's well written, and yeah, well done. Thank you.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Shirley?
Doug, have you been given a date and a time yet for the hearing?
I've been given one for the Waimakere District Council's annual plan, and I can't remember what date it is, but it's to be at Oxford.
Thank you.
Opted for Oxford instead of Rangiora. All right, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence. Change in green waste composting facility. Tia, have you got something to comment on that one? No? All right. So the recommendation is that we receive the information on the change of green waste composting facility. Somebody move that we accept that correspondence. Thomas, thank you. Second that. Shirley, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Chairperson's report. Further update on the meeting. The only meeting I've been to on this month is to North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support. the last meeting, the suggestion was that the manager was able to increase her hours from 20 to 30 hours a week because she's got to cope with Waimakariri, Huranui and Kaikoura. And it has been agreed that she goes up to 32 hours a week, so that was good. And she does an exceptionally good job as manager of North Canterbury Neighbourhood Support. That's it from me on that one. Matters for information. Somebody moved that we receive those matters, please, on item 10. Right. Thank you. Second up. Sarah. All in favour? Yes. Carried. Thank you. How do we handle the public excluded? Sarah, we leave it till after the meeting?
No, you can just, because we're only receiving it, you can actually do it now because you will see that recommendation B actually states that it remains public excluded.
Okay. Yep. So we just got to accept that information.
Yes.
Right. Thank you. So I'll move that we accept that information. Somebody second it? Thomas? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Members' information exchange. We'll start it with you, Shirley.
Nothing really to report. I've been staying close to home. OPAC had their AGM, Oxford Promotions had the AGM, which resulted in a change of a chairman and secretary, and the vice chairman still has to be elected. I would like a comment, probably Tracy, from you regarding the resource consent for the signs at Fresh Choice Oxford. Are you able to do that?
Bit slow on the unmute button. So yes, note that you've put that email around the board. What did you want to know at this stage? I mean, it's just been received and it's in the process of being managed, of being processed.
What actually happens?
So like all resource consent applications, so it's been received. So the team then consider first off, two parts of it. First off is notification decision. So is it non-notified? Does it need to be notified? That's stage one. And then stage two goes on to processing the application under whichever notification that is required. So the team are working through that currently.
Thank you. I did a snap send and solve regarding that unsightly mess on the corner of Northia Road and Tram Road. It does quite concern me that it's been left as it is. So hopefully we can get something done about that. I would just like to update you on the mural that was proposed for the public toilets. It's been a frustrating time, actually. Yeah, there was no guidelines, no application form, no nothing really. And so it's gone through and it has to go to Mana, whatever, the iwi, to see if we can paint native birds and native flora on the public toilets, because the council staff had been advised that in other places of New Zealand who have wanted to paint these on public toilets, they have been refused. So that's really quite interesting. So we might have to go another way. Tongue in cheek, we can put gorse and broom and magpies and possums and stoats and that, and I don't think anybody would worry, but it has been since October. I don't know when it will end, so I just thought I'd let you know the update of that, and that's all I've got to report.
Thank you, Shirley. Ray.
Yes, I did attend a Zoom meeting of the Mandeville Sports Club. not a lot to really report, except that most of the meeting revolved around the asbestos issue, which I understand is pending litigation, so we probably don't need to go down that track again. But I've stayed away from the Greypower meeting due to COVID. We have had a close contact in the family, so we've been self-isolating. But I did receive a letter from a resident of Ahoka Downs, Ahoka Meadows, and it's signed by 22 of the 23 residents there who are concerned about a pond which no longer exists at the entrance to Ahoka Meadows. I'm pretty sure it does belong to the Ahoka drainage catchment area, and is fed by ditches that run along Mandeville Road, and then eventually the water from there goes into the large reservoir on the corner of Whites Road and Tram Road. They're concerned that it's become so overgrown now that it's not fit for purpose. It used to be quite a landscape feature when the Ahoka Meadows was first developed, but now it's just almost completely silted up. And they did present this to council over a month ago, but they haven't received any reply or recognition that it has been presented to council. So I thought I would present it here. I'll scan it and send you through a copy, Tia, tomorrow. And it's maybe something where we need to have a meeting on site with the residents and members of council or the Ahoka Drainage Advisory Group to see what can be done with this particular issue. But apart from that, that's all I've got at this stage.
Right. I'll check up on that Ahoka Meadows with the drainage staff and find out whether it is drainage responsibility or not. I've got a funny feeling that Ahoka Meadows was not included in the Ahoka drainage scheme. I could be wrong. I'll check up on it. Thank you, Ray. Sarah?
Sorry, Doug. I think we do have a detailed map has been given to us, but I haven't checked that to see if this part of the drainage network is included in the Ahoka. If it's not in the Ahoka, I guess it would be in the Silverstream catchment area. But yeah, that would be great if you could look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Sarah?
I had a Zoom WAG meeting last night. They were discussing the extended hours health hub that is supposed to be going in. It's been obviously on the agenda for quite some time, and it has been stunted in its progress. It looks like that they are having to go back through resource consent to discuss with neighbouring properties because it will be working outside of normal working hours. So consultation needs to go through its process with that. There's some talk of it becoming a bit of a political agenda rather than a need and just being done. So it'll be interesting to see how long that takes to get back on its feet again and get going. The Oxford Hospital is obviously closed, supposedly temporarily at the moment due to staffing shortages. But there is concern that it could potentially stay closed if the District Health Board doesn't have pressure to reopen it again. So Mayor Dan Gordon and some other people involved in the health sector are going to keep pressure on for that to be reopened. It was supposed to be reopened on the 26th of April, but there's no talk of that happening. there is also actually that whole concept is involving the mayors of Selwyn District and Huranui as well, because it affects them too. There is still issues around the 2 beds at Regia Hospital that aren't being utilised for people for convalescence either. And the Coldstream COVID centre has closed, so it's just up to the pharmacies in Rangiora now to give those services. And that was that there. Just have 2 questions, which I probably should have brought up earlier, particularly with Grant there. I was just wondering if there was any more updates about the Mandeville Crossroads, what was happening in that area that had been cleared but not cleared, so kind of cleared into piles, but then the piles left there. If we had any update on that, or if we could see if we can get an update on that.
Through you, Mr. Chairperson, no, we haven't, but I will follow that up and come back to the board on that.
Thank you. And the other one was, at what point in the process is the Aohoko development currently at? Tracy, you might be able to answer that one.
You talk about the plan change?
Yes.
Yes, so no change from last meeting. So it's still in train, but we are on track to have a decision-making report in front of council at their 4th of May meeting.
Okay, so what is the decision-making report?
So that's where council have to consider whether they will decline, adopt, or notify or approve notification of the plan change.
Okay, and does that come with recommendations from staff?
Correct.
Right. Okay, and we don't we don't find any of that out until it's been through council. Is that correct?
Correct. And the team are still working on it. So it's, as you can imagine, it's quite complex and needing to be very thorough. So that will be formed up and be part of the report to council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Tracy. Thomas.
Thanks, Doug. Following on from the comment about the Oxford Hospital, I know the Community Trust are concerned about it potentially not reopening, and they're pushing hard for it through their avenues and the local healthcare service provider group. I forget what it's called, but the one they have the CDHB. So they're definitely pushing for it to be reopened, but it definitely could be used as a backdoor route to close it. So we're very aware of that. On the meeting side of thing, there actually hasn't been a Pearson Park meeting again, and there hasn't been an Ashley Gorge meeting either, again because of COVID. The only thing I did want to ask if we could get an update on what's happening with the small forestry blocks that have been cleared a bit around the area. There's one at Bennett's, there's one at I think it might be Points Road or Wolf's Road, one of the ones down there. And there's one out on Tram Road as well that have been cleared recently that are sort of just sitting there. So it'd be good if we get an update on what's happening with them, because people are definitely aware because they're on the roadside. Yeah, I don't know who we ask about that, and potentially whether the Carlton Reserve, what they do with it going forward, whether we need to be involved in it, because it is a community space now with the Oxford Pony Club using that area. But other than that, it's very quiet. No meetings or anything. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, Thomas. Tracy, do you want to comment on these questions?
I'm sure Tia's taken note of those and will follow up.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Right, councillors, who's first? Don't both rush at once now. Okay, Wendy, yours first, please.
Okay, thank you. Just one or two little information pieces there on the backflow prevention policy, which this is to protect the water from the pipes and such like, and anyone using them, to stop any discretion going back into the drinking water things. So we've just had to go through, it was done in 2014 when we first adopted it. And it's just moved back now, and we've had to redo it again. But under the Water Services Act, it came into force, we've had to do it again. So anyone that receiving restricted supply water from the council supplies are required to provide adequate air gap, which is a separation to prevent backflow from a privately owned water storage tank entering into council water supply network. Now, we have various places around our areas where there are filling stations up. So anyone that's needing to use that needs to be registered to do so. The fire brigade and all that are part of that. But so if you see anybody that's actually been filling up there that is not approved to do so, then you do need to perhaps let them know, because it could be a source of infection going into our water supply, which is really important that we don't have that happen. Council approved a 12-month permit to extend the Flamingo scooters to continue their commercial services in Waimakariri district, covering a time from the 1st of May 2022 to the 30th of April 2023. And that will be up to 300 scooters. And it has approved an extension of a permit by additional 12 months for any selected providers. So they've gone, and I'm sorry, I don't have it just offhand there, but they've gone through a list of any injuries and things like that have happened. Now, there's been photos of that taken of these scooters that have not been parked correctly, and the group, the people that are concerned, the Flamingos, actually find out who they know who's the last person that's parked them, and so they go and contact them and just tell them that they've got to advise them that they need to be doing this properly, and if they continue not to do that, then they can't use the scooter again. So that's makes me feel a little bit happier about that, that people can't just willy-nilly abuse that privilege. Now on Monday, Nikki and I are going with a group of the working group for housing and social and affordable housing. We're going off down to Vision West facility, Puna Ahua in Woolston, and we're just going to go and have a look at that facility just to see if it would fit into our thinking for our Waimakariri area. Just our long-term road safety person, Kathy Graham, has resigned from her position to take up a role at Whakatahi, New Zealand Transport, and her last day, unfortunately, is the 8th, Friday the 8th. You've mentioned about Grant Redburn as well, which I take my hat off to that gentleman. He's done such a great job and really appreciate it. Hey, but also another one that's been a very long-standing person, and that is Ian. Oh gosh, sorry, Ian Kennedy. He's been 28 years working, for council, and he's just been such an incredible man, and it's just nothing a problem for him to go out any old time of the day and night if there was an issue, a roading issue, and go and sort that out. It's just people like that, really, you take your hat off to, because he's such a dedicated man, and I really appreciate everything that he has done. He's been working with schools. He's done the signage rollout for the district. He's worked with Lees Valley maintenance, emergency event response. Ashley Bridge, the old bridge, monitoring the old bridge, through the floods and that. He's just done so much work, and it's just been, he truly was a very dedicated person. I'd just like to acknowledge that very much so. Now, just another thing that you may be interested in for the community and recreation, in the library, they've got various things that are happening, and there's another one, Fiction Addiction, and you can join this Facebook, and you get so many books to read, and it's a real sort of a group, a Facebook group, and you'll find details on it. Each month they choose a book, and then they come back and make a comment about it. And they're all available from the Kaipū, Oxford and Rangiora libraries. So, and the other one is, there's another one with languages other than English that you can now is available on Borrow Box. And there's another one for the month is Connecting Women's History Month. And check out these books. They're available on this on the Facebook. So if you need to know any more, just go to the libraries and find out a bit more information about it. So another thing that's also happening too is that there's a group of people that are going to be looking at the community Christmas dinners again. There's a planning going on there now, and Thomas, you probably know a wee bit about it, do you? Okay, right. Well, it's a group of them from the various areas, and Oxford's one of them. So Oxford, Kaipū, Rangiora, and various community organisations. So they're just starting to look at perhaps ways of helping those people that don't have any family to go to, and maybe this Christmas cheer may be able to be done this year, hopefully without COVID. Now, the last thing that might be interesting for you also is from the libraries, Sally O'Connell, from our local heritage coordinators, continues her virtual heritage tour featuring streets and road signs across the district. Every Saturday morning, the social media team posts Saturday street names, a virtual heritage tour on our Facebook pages. This last week was the one that featured information on Points Road in Cust and Horrible. The street was named after Stephen Edward Points, who was first to lease the Education Reserve land between Howson's Woodfields Tram and Oxford and Points Road. So it's every Saturday morning they put that on there if you're interested in it. And plus also they would like to know some history as well about other roads in our area. So that's me. Thank you.
Wendy, how do we know if people taking water out of the council system are approved to do so?
Yes, there are some that are approved. There's contractors that are approved and to take. I mean, they'll have to pay for what they take out of it, but there's also some that are just doing it, and they're trying to stop that because of they could contaminate the drinking water, which is what this is all about. Yeah.
But we can't actually tell anyway that whether they're.
Well, I think you'd need to let the staff know on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question, please? Can I ask a question of Wendy?
Yes.
I understood that the people who have got approved actually had keys to actually unlock it. So how can people?
But actually... some of them surely are not locked. Some of them aren't. So.
Well, they're meant to be.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So they've just highlighted it because it's actually very important that or whether they're using it. I don't know how it works, Shirley. I know that they do have a lock to get in there, but there's some that are actually abusing the system. Thank you.
Yeah,
I've got a question as well. What's to stop people just using the fire hydrants though?
Well, they shouldn't be really.
Well, if you've got a fire hydrant key you get from Christchurch, you could easily come out here and use the fire hydrant to fill up a tank or something, I would have thought. So Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of money to put those stations in when you can still use a hydrant. That's all.
If they've got a key, then they know the rules and regulations about, and they also have to have the equipment so that they will not contaminate the water, and that's where the fire brigade and those registered contractors have the right equipment that they won't contaminate backflow and cause contamination, because that's very important. And the rulings for the water is going to get even tougher. So we're just trying to just track down those that are abusing the system. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Right, Nikki.
Right. Wendy's probably talked about a few things that were on my list. And all I can say is in the last month, it's been a very busy month. But as you can see by the fact that I am wearing my glasses for this entire time, there's been an awful lot of Zooming going on. Yeah, probably the key words for this last month are Zooms and reform. There's been a lot of work on the many reform programs that are going through government right now. Just starting at the beginning of last month, on the 4th, attended the Rural and Provincial Sector Conference. And the main topics at that were the three major reforms that are going through for Three Waters, Future for Local Government, and the resource management reforms. We also heard from the new water regulator, Taumata Arowai. And of particular interest to that, to the board is that there are 75,000 unregistered water suppliers now caught in the new regulatory regime. And basically, what makes you a water supplier is if you're supplying water to more than one household. So there's going to be a lot of people out there that won't realize that are now going to be caught up with this regulation. They will have 4 years to register and then a further 3 years to meet the requirements of the Water Services Act 2021. But, that's something that's going to be a big step change for small providers. If you've got a farm and you have a few farmhouses on that farm that you supply from a bore, or if you are in one of the sort of older subdivisions out this way, I know up Mandalay Way, for instance, I know somebody who supplies several of the surrounding lifestyle blocks from a bore on their property. So people like that are actually going to get caught up in this. And I do hope that they will get out there with the communications and try to find out who and where all these people are. They haven't quite figured out how they're doing that yet, because it's going to be something that people will need to consider. Also, the Taumata Arowai guy said that common sense exemptions for places like backcountry dock huts, for instance, it's just a sensible thing for them to just simply post a boil water notice, because it's really not practical if you're way out in the back blocks to, put in a big new water system and all of that. So it's good to know that they will have a measure of common sense there. As far as chlorine exemptions go, yes, they're possible for some of our urban supplies, but there's a very high bar set. I know that our council water guys are currently working on that very thing. And if they can't do it, no one can. I have faith in them, but it is something that they're very much dealing with right now. On the 7th, I organized a meeting with some Kiahoka people, myself, the mayor, and Tracy, to answer some questions about procedure, timelines, etc., for the Ahoka plan change. There's quite a lot of interest, ongoing interest with that. One thing, Tracy, I would probably just clarify too with Sarah's question is, when this comes to council for acceptance, they're not saying, yes, we're doing it, it's just going to become a fait accompli. They're simply accepting the report and for it to go out to consultation to notification. So the council is not saying, yes, we're doing this, or no, we're not doing this. They can't really do that. It's just, okay, you've crossed your T's, you've dotted your I's, you've filled the paperwork out and paid the fee, and you've answered all of our questions. So we'll put this out now for notification and go through the next part of the process. So nothing is a done deal at this point. I don't know, does that make sense to you, Tracy? You look like you're pouncing on the unmute. Yeah?
Yeah. So the report going to council gives them the options to adopt it as their own plan change, decline it or accept it, and it goes to notification. So we'll work, as we always do, through the elements of each of those options in relation to this application, and then council makes that decision and we move forward on that basis.
Yes. And I would note that it's probably highly unlikely that they would adopt it as a public plan change. So just my 2 cents worth. On the 9th, there was the LGNZ Special Sector Zoom, which basically LGNZ updated us on government's Three Waters proposal on changes to ownership, safeguards, local voice, and accountability. But dare I say it, most people are still not very impressed with it. And you've probably read in the papers that it probably didn't go far enough, certainly not for our council's liking or our people, but that's where that's at. On the 10th, I attended the Oxford Community Networking Forum. Mind you, sorry, I'll just preface this. These are all Zooms. Unless I say otherwise, they're not physical meetings. There's a lot of Zooming going on. The Oxford Community Networking Forum is really neat. And you Oxford folks, I'm sure, are quite aware of this, but basically what that does is it just brings together various community service providers that have representatives who are working with youth, the elderly, disabled, mental health, migrants, social sectors, as well as food banks, the CAB, Wellbeing, North Canterbury, Oxford Community Trust. All of those things at the moment have COVID impacts. And there's particular concern for youth, as well as you've all mentioned before, the cutbacks and to care and the temporary closure of the Oxford Hospital. In addition to what Sarah said with that, the DHBs are actually, one of the reasons I think, what we're told was that they wanted to keep it closed over the peak of the wave, but nobody, in 6 weeks after that, well, you know, that's kind of how long is a piece of string. But one important thing to note is that I believe it's the 1st of July, DHBs will be no more, and it's going to be Health New Zealand and Health News. And so therefore the DHBs cannot commit to opening anything because it may not be their place to do so, because they may not even exist by that point. And it will be a decision to be made by Health New Zealand. So that's kind of why we find ourselves between this rock and a hard place. But we definitely have all of the mayors in the area all joined together in working hard to ensure that these rural hospitals, which are the backbones of the communities, don't get forgotten about and closed, because they're very important to our rural communities. On the 11th of March, there was a GCP meeting. At the moment, GCP is currently focused on Greater Christchurch strategic transport planning investment, and that closely also relates to future mass rapid transit and spatial planning. It's all one big kind of stuck together thing, but there's an awful lot of strategy and whatnot that and facts and figures and things to weigh up with that. So that's a huge project, which we won't see an answer to really anytime soon. On the 14th was the LGNZ Zone 5 and 6 conference, once again focused on the reforms, Three Waters, RMA, and Future for Local Government. And there's also been a new one, NEMA, which has been added, which NEMA is the National Emergency Management Association, yeah, so that's civil defense. So, you know, hey, we need another reform. Excellent. So LGNZ, to their credit, has requested that the government please not introduce any further reforms string, because we have more than enough to deal with at this moment. Yeah, so again, that reform theme running through, picking through here. Land and Water Committee on the 22nd. Of interest, we have added 10 new wells to a study that we've been doing of private wells, 10 each in Carlton and, 10 in Carlton, 10 in Swannanoa, to a study which previously only included wells in Cust and Ayrton. So that makes a total of 39, because one of them had to drop out, or there would have been an even 10 in there. But interestingly, 67% of Ayrton, 89% at Cust, 30% at Carlton, and 40% at Swannanoa exceeded the required median of half the MAV, the maximum allowable value, of 5.65 milligrams per liter of nitrate nitrogen, as required in PC7 of the Land and Water Regional Plan for private wells. yeah, that, and no correlation has been found between increasing well depth and decreasing nitrates. So all I can say, and the reason I'm bringing this up, is if you are on a private well, it is really important that you get that checked regularly, at least once a year. Nitrates have no smell, they have no taste, they have no color, but they do have a health effect. And there's no way of knowing whether you are in a high nitrate area unless you get your well checked. And your well could be one thing, and then just down the street could be something else. So yeah, I just would really like to urge people, if you're on a private bore, to please get it tested. Moving right along, passing over a few things. On the 1st, there was an extraordinary council meeting where we voted to remove vaccine pass requirements and mandates in line with government recommendations. So that is in play as of this week. There are no longer vaccine passes or vaccine mandates in council facilities. Government has pretty much removed that and just made sense. And regarding the council meeting, just of note, Wendy's mentioned a few things here, but we have received the Canterbury Climate Change Risk Assessment, and that's got some big implications to work through. And we also have a more finer grained one just for the district, which can give us a little bit more localized information, which it's just a draft and it needs to be looked through right now. But that will be quite useful for us to really understand what we're looking at and start working on some things. Regarding the Flamingo scooter trial that's just ended, you know, they've worked through the community feedback. They've granted a new license. They've kept, by and large, the geofencing, speed, and parking restrictions that were already there. And Wendy also mentioned about the parking. So it was interesting. I think out of the 30,000 plus rides that were done, they only received 61 complaints. That's not bad going. And they have worked with people that had concerns. If you see something that's not properly parked, chances are it's because it's been moved after the fact, because the clock keeps ticking on your tab until you actually stop your ride, take a photo, and send it in. And if it's not properly parked, they keep the tab going. So obviously it gets very expensive for you if you didn't properly park your scooter. So that's kind of a bit of an incentive. But if you see one that's just, you know, where it shouldn't be or what have you, you can contact Flamingo and they'll actually send one of their staff out to move it and fix it, because it's their problem and they need to stay on top of that. And as Wendy said, they've also given them a new 1-year license. And we'll see how they go with that. Just as for local issues, I've received a few calls from concerned elderly regarding home care and obviously the hospital situation, which you've all talked about. We've talked about the Ahoka plan change. The interest is still quite high, and Tracy's updated you on that. Regarding the Butchers Road Bridge, which any of you that live down this end of the ward might know, it washed out in February. And that's really been much missed by the community, and it needs to be replaced. But in the meantime, I've been contacted by a resident, and actually quite a few residents have reported difficulty with cycling and walking on the alternative Mill Road route to Kaiapoi. And they've asked for the feasibility for it to be made safe for foot traffic to be explored. And which Joanne has duly done. She's a rock star. I'm excited. She's hopefully found a way to open it as soon as possible, providing that there's not further slumping or another rainfall event occurring, and comms will follow. But she seems to think that she might have a way to make it safe in the meantime for it to be open for cyclists and pedestrians, you know, open to foot traffic. So, you know, fingers crossed, because it's an important link in our area. And also, I'd just like to follow up just regarding that memo that we had at the end of the meeting there about the change in green waste composting. I saw that and I thought, ooh, yeah, I wasn't sure what to think about it. So I contacted Matt Bacon, because I know surely he was at the meeting with that you guys had with all the concerned stakeholders. And I thought, right, since he's in that compliance area, I wanted to know that it was fully compliant with its resource consents and that there hadn't been any recent complaints, just to ensure that we'd done our due diligence and that we wouldn't be exacerbating any tensions in the community. And I also drove out there myself just to observe, because I thought, I didn't see any traffic out there, didn't smell anything, didn't hear anything, it was, there was nothing really notable, but I just had to satisfy myself that it okay, because I haven't heard anything from locals. I'm worried about it lately. So fingers crossed that means that they have actually addressed all of those issues. So I was assured that council are conducting 6 monthly minimum visits to ensure compliance, and the latest was done in early February this year. So, all of the themes, I welcome the opportunity to reduce our emissions as well as support a local business in the process. So, but yeah, it's just something that I wanted to check out for myself, really. Are there any questions, folks? I'll send through my members exchange thing to you guys. And if you have any further questions on those, because there's a lot of things I didn't talk about because we don't want to be here all night. So, but yeah, if you have any questions, just get in contact.
Doug?
Yes.
Doug, can I just mention something I forgot to mention?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, the Oxford Hospital, when they closed it down, temporarily closed it down, they actually didn't take into account that the Oxford Hospital actually does Meals on Wheels for the Oxford residents. So they when contacted about it, because Linda Hurry is the chair of the Friends of the Oxford Hospital, when she spoke to them about it, they just said, oh, well, we've got some businesses to prepare the meals. And she said, no, they need specialised meals. So then from that discussion, they now have reinstated the Meals on Wheels being made from the Oxford Hospital. So that's a good thing from there. But what happens, who knows? And it's really sad, there was a resident there that has lived her whole life in Oxford for 98 years, and she's actually had to be transferred out of Oxford. So it's horrible, actually. It really is. So we feel very much for the family over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Right, somebody move that those reports be accepted, please. No, don't need to.
No need to, Doug.
No need to. Right, we'll accept them anyway. Thank you. Okay, consultation projects. Migrant experiences and e-scoots. We need to do anything there? No. Board funding update. Balance of the discretionary grant at 4,387, less what we granted tonight. And the general landscaping fund has basically been taken care of, apart from $300, I think. Media items, there are none. Questions, understanding orders, there are none. Urgent general business, understanding orders, there's nothing. So the next meeting will be Monday, the 4th of May. Monday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It's a Wednesday.
Is it the 4th or the 6th?
The 4th.
It's the 4th. The 4th is a
the 4th.
Wednesday.
Okay. That's 7 p.m. Right, thank you. There being no further business, I'll close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you all for attending.
Thanks very much, all. Stay safe out there. and stay away from the Mealings house.
My house too. We're in the thick of COVID at the moment.
Well, my son has it, and I've tested negative myself 3 times, but I have symptoms now, and I'm just like, what the heck? So I actually went and got a PCR today, just to be sure. I don't want to get anybody sick with this.
Yeah.
So, but
there's 100 students off at Swananoa School today.
Oh, really? 100?
Yeah. Honestly, if you don't want COVID, stay away from young people.
Like son brought it home. That's how we got it. And his hapu, over half of them are away today. Thanks for that. So now it's ripping on through. But just a note, I did a wee scientific experiment with the tests, Nikki, so you might want to follow this. I had 2 different types of brands. So I did it on both brands, and I did a nasal and I did a throat. I don't have a sore throat at all. Mine's all in my nose. And the nasal swab at the test strip, when it goes up, went up to negative, and it was only probably about, after it had settled a couple of minutes later, that there was a tiny wee faint positive. But I did the back of my throat, and as soon as it went up, it was positive.
I know the back. They say to put it in the back of your throat first, and then your nose, which obviously you want to brush your teeth.
I didn't really fancy doing that both, but the throat came up straight away, but the nasal one's very faint.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Pay to try your throat, Nikki, and see what happens.
Yeah, well, I just thought, you know what, this is crazy. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to